With 12 different lakes, this is Cobhouse Fisheries. We've got 2 great anglers, we've got a first-class venue. This is going to be exciting. Let's have a little look and see what the guys have brought and what they're going to be using today, tactics-wise.
Because I found myself in my customary end peg, I've gone out an all-out positive approach. I'm just doing margin fishing, and I want to keep it as positive as I can.
You're going to be fishing literally both margins?
Yeah, both margins. I'm right jammed in a corner. I'm going to fish a metre from my first bank, which is directly in front of me. I've got 2 foot in depth. And then I'm going to my left, where I've got just a little bit less. So I've set up another rig, but the same float, which will let me have a bit of variation fishing off bottom. It's a softish Matrix 12 hollow elastic to 018 line, to a Series 1.2 float. Nice strong nylon bristle, balsa body, very strong carbon stem.
Right.
And I'm coming down then to just got 3 number 9 droppers, 015 bottom with a 16s carp bagger hook, a hybrid hook, wide gape, very sharp point. Good last year, good old session.
Considering you're fishing down the edge, which we normally do on a pole, you've got a rod set up.
Yeah, and the reason for that is when I'm margin fishing, be it with pellets, be it with ground bait, when I hook a fish, as the fish has cleared the swim, I like to feed and build confidence in the peg again, so another fish can come back and there's something waiting there for me. Once I've netted that fish, I'm back in, there's another one there waiting. I like to feed just a ball that's similar to like the size of the method that I'll be using.
Very cunning.
That's a 30 gram Matrix Evolution feeder. It's that sort of amount of ground bait that'll be on it. So every time I feed like that, there'll be a plop, 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 plop. And at certain times of day, such as now, big, bright, brandy ball in the sky, beaming down on the peg, the shadows coming across the water, the fish start to spook. That's when I can pick up this little 9-footer, drop a little method up the margin, and because they've got used to that plop, plop, they ain't going to be spooked, they're not going to be concerned. To them, it's just another free offering. Bang. All
right, Tom. I noticed you haven't got any top kits with you, just got a couple of method rods there.
Yep, just an out-and-out method feed approach for me today. I find myself up against like point of an island between 2 islands.
Yeah, your peg's a little bit further down.
Yeah, I've picked 3 sort of areas of my peg that I'm going to fish, fishing them a little bit different. 2 spots against the island, 1 to the point, 1 just slightly into the normal bank. One's going to be with 2mm Special G pellets.
What have you done with those? You've just soaked those slightly, have you?
Yep, I've put them in a bait tub, pint of pellets, pint of water pretty much, just tap them down so they all get some and then just put the lid on and leave them until you're ready to start fishing.
Why have you chosen these pellets? I mean, I know they're a super premium pellet, aren't they?
They just seem to bring so many fish into your peg, don't need to use anything else really. The other swim will be Entice ground bait with Entice meat on a hook. That's just purely because I've never been here before. I don't quite know what they want.
That's a really good tip actually, isn't it? You know, if you've not been to a venue before, take a selection of baits, try different ones on different lines and you'll soon find out which one they want on the day.
Yeah. The third area I'm fishing will be a short line at about 5 or 6 metres. I'm going to be throwing small balls of softened pellets and feeding 6mm, quite heavy for later in the day. But some of the 6mm carp pellets that we got, I'll also put them on the band as well on that line.
Ah, so you use those on the hook as well as to feed loose on the short line. You're a bit of a master at this sort of game, aren't you? You know, because you've had some huge weights of fishing those styles.
Yeah.
So I don't suppose it's surprising really that you come here to a place you don't know. First thing you're going to do, fish your strengths. You've got a Turbo Halibut Marines there, pre-drilled ones. Those just give you alternate hook baits, I suppose, do they?
Yep, just like to have loads and loads of options for hook bait. I mean, it's good to have as many as you can really, because it's unusual to catch on one bait all day long. And when you do, that's generally when you've got £300 at the end of the day. So.
One of those days. Les, what have you got set up?
The mix I've chosen is Colt Sweet fish meal carp. It's a 2 kilo bag, and then I've put a full kilo bag of Entice meaty mixing with all the molasses and the fish meal in that. It's a fantastic attractant. It really gets them carp rubbing around. The high protein, what's in the meaty mix, that really gets them. There's those little tiny bits of meat in there, the aminos. They're getting digging. I've probably had a few dead reds, so that it all starts layering up and they can really
some maggots, a couple of little particles from to search for.
Variation in hook bait, because I will be using Entice meaty polony.
This has become a huge hit between all the Bait Tech boys now, isn't it?
The amount of fish that I've caught on this in my short time with Bait Tech has been unbelievable, and I've stopped using conventional meats what you buy off the shelf. This is what I use now. 2 tins there. I should be looking that on the pole rig, putting a little bit on the hair. Another reason for why I did put the meaty mix in with that fish meal, as you can see, it's originally quite a light mix.
Yeah.
And that being like a reddish sort of colour, it's sort of brought it more back, because this is a red clay bottom.
It's going to blend in
with
it.
It's going to blend in quite. It ain't going to stand out, you know. So they're going to be looking, they're going to be smelling all them oils and all the aminos, and everything's going to be bubbling up.
A few tins of corn as well. That's just alternating hook baits.
Just alternating hook baits, mate. That's all it is. You know, it's always nice to have a variation. Sometimes, you know, they've seen it all before. We've all been in that situation, and a little change of hook bait can get you another bite, another fish.
Pressure's on now. Any idea how many you've had?
15 or 16 fish so far.
Already?
Yeah.
Wow. What are you fishing at the moment?
The 6mm carp pellets on the band.
Yep.
As you can see, the hair's quite short on that.
It's practically touching the bend of the hook, isn't it?
Yeah. With the method feeder being like this,
yeah,
with the bait being like this, when the fish comes in and picks it up, it can't take the pellet without having a hook as well. Just put the pellets in the mould like that.
Yeah, yeah.
With these feeders, I've taken the middle rib out of the feeder so the hook's got nowhere to catch on. And it's just a simple case of pressing it in.
Simple as that?
Just like that. And these pellets go really nice and sticky once they're soaked up. So
perfect for the method.
Yeah, they actually get to the bottom.
You're obviously clipped up because you land in that feeder in exactly the same spot every single chuck. How do you get it so bang on all the time? Is it just practice?
Before I start the session, I'll always clip up with like a bomb that's as heavy or heavier than the feeder that I'm actually using.
Right, that's another.
I can cast that short and then actually let a bit of line out by the clip every time I do it. So, you know.
So to start off, you drop it short, take a foot or two off, cast out again. If you're still not absolutely on the money, take another foot off, try again until you've got it going down the same place every single time.
Yeah.
Well, you certainly do make it look like second nature, mate. There's no doubt about it.
It's important to hit your clip, but not to bounce the feeder as well, if you know what I mean.
Right, okay.
You know, so it's once you've been doing it a little while, you learn to just touch it and then drop the rod straight away.
Another lovely fish, mate. They like these carp pellets, don't they?
They do.
When you're casting a long way, obviously your feed is a little bit closer to the rod top.
Yeah, you'd be winding it up a bit, yeah. Bring it back nice and slow. And then as soon as you let go...
So as soon as you feel that feeder hit that clip...
You drop the rod straight away.
It goes in with almost like a plop, doesn't it? This is getting silly now, isn't it? You didn't even have time to sink the line then, did you?
No.
That's how devastating it can be. No wonder you do some silly weights on it.
It's a simple method.
I don't think I'd fancy taking you on at it, that's for sure. It's obvious that they absolutely love these special G pellets. They're queuing up, aren't they? As soon as that feeder goes in, they're on it, aren't they?
Yeah.
Even though we've brought two different types of bait for two different styles.
Yeah.
You started on pellets.
And they're loving it.
And they love it.
Yeah.
When you're catching this quick, there's no need to change, is it, at the moment?
No. On harder days, ground bait is better, you know. There's times when ground bait is important for your method fishing. If I'm casting a long way or it's deep water, binding the pellets up with a bit of ground bait as well is definitely a...
Fishing at what we call 50-50,
50-50, yeah. Or even, you know, just throwing a handful in there, just to, especially when you're using the coarse pellets, because, oh, bloody hell.
Another one got in the way then. Whoa! Considering you've never been here before, I think I won't come back if you're coming.
I'm not striking a line to sink it or anything like that.
Right, okay.
It's just literally hold the rod under the surface, and when I put my rod on the rest, I'm not making any conscious move to tighten up to it. If you move the feeder, the cast is a waste of time. You just want to bring it in and cast it out again.
So yeah, make sure once it's landed, leave it there.
Leave it there. And it stops you striking at silly little digs and things like that. And when they take off of it, it's just kind of rescuing the rod, really, isn't it?
Well, that's it. I mean,
there you go.
Like that.
We've been plundering away in these margins now for a couple of hours. I'll just give it a little bit of a break just to run you through the method that Baitech anglers have been scoring with all over the country. 2 cups, instantly a loose ground bait from the start. So I'm in my mix, which was the Colt Sweet Fish Meal, the Entice Meaty Mix, There's probably a pint of dead reds and white maggots in that. I'd just be cupping 2 of those into 18 inches, 2 foot of water. That would kick my peg off. I'd be looking probably to get through, if the session went well, at least 4 kilos of this mix in a 5-hour session. You cannot put enough of this in. You're looking to create a carpet such as the likes of that on the bottom of your peg. The fish can get in there, their tails pop up, you get your big vortex patterns and they're rooting about, they're picking out the dead maggots. This is when you need to sort out what's best for the hook. And this is how I feel that this works best. The entice shows up really well on top. Bright visual baits such as corn, worms, everything works well on top of that little area that you're trying to build. Lots of people tend to just put one ball in at the start, little bits of maggots, little bits of pellets, bit of worm. Wrong. We want a nice big flat plateau of bait, get the fish rooting around, really grubbing, stirring that bottom up, competing for food, and then we're targeting our hook bait. Now once you've started catching, the idea is to keep the fish in the peg. I'd feed a little tiny ball, just snapped off. So if I felt like they could take a throw, I would feed it as soon as I hooked that fish. Otherwise I'd be topping up every fish with a tiny little ball just set on the top of the kinder pot. I do like to vary my hook baits while I'm fishing over that top of that maggot and ground bait area. Either 2 grains of corn, 2 cubes of entice polony, 2 dendrobina. As I mentioned before, throwing method sized balls down into my margin just to build confidence up that if I did need to fish the method feeder, if they started spooking when the pole went over the tops of their head. I use a micro quick stop. A lot of quick stops I've used over the years, I've had to cut down in size and they stick over the side of the bait. Matrix have come up with these tiny little super stops, a lot more squat than others, and they don't protrude any of the bait whatsoever. I use this in conjunction with a squeeze and feed method mould. Basically just lower your bait into the mould, you load it up, turn over the feeder, good firm press, and it's easy to just squeeze. Feeder's loaded. To me that's the perfect amount of feed that I want on that feeder. The visual bait of the corn is on top of the ball, so as soon as it goes in, it starts to break down, they're attacking that ball, they're right on my hook bait straight away. Just a simple underarm lob. Bring the rod round, dip the rod to sink the line. Some people like to fish it with a slack line. I like to fish it with some tension in the tip so that the fish hooks herself, turns those little tiny knocks into a pull round with a really slack clutch, so that when I do hook the fish, the clutch will do the work and let the fish clear the swim. That's when I'll reach over, grab another ball, and there's one straight away. That could not have gone any better. That fish has cleared itself. You can hear the clutch doing the work. Just put a bit of tension back onto it. Just make sure it clears the area, because they'll still spook the fish that are down that margin. It's still relatively close. Not as big as some of the fish we've been having, to be fair. There's been some real munters down that edge today. Little common. That's how devastating it can be.
Let's have a chuck on this short line now. I know you're catching one a bung on that long line, but I'm dying to see if there's any fish there.
2 mil carp pellets around the feeder, as I've been feeding little balls of that, and the 6 mils. The 8 mil will just stick out among the rest. And we'll just fill the feeder. Slackening the clutch off, because the bites on this line are absolutely savage, and if you're not ready for them, they will take the rod in.
It's another good fish, mate, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. Slightly bigger stamp on that short line.
What an awesome day's fishing we've had at Cobhouse Fishery. We've caught lots of fish on this deadly method of loose ground bait down the edges. We've already put one net back because there were so many of them. And this net pretty much seems to be the same. I'm not going to pull them out because, like I say, we don't want to hurt the fish. Here we go. What a devastating method.
What an unbelievable day's fishing that
Brilliant,
was.
mate. Brilliant.
That was a masterclass in method fishing, wasn't it?
I'm knackered.
I bet you are, yeah. Yeah, I'm not surprised. I bet your arms are aching like that, aren't they?
Yeah, just a bit. Sleep well tonight, mate,
yeah.
I think.
I'm speechless to what I've seen today. That has just been absolutely phenomenal. Well, I hope you enjoyed it, mate.
Yeah, loved it, mate.
Superb.
Cheers.
Well
Cheers for
done.
having me.